You ever get the feeling like you're being watched? Hey, what's up everyone? Rich at Rivera Urban Homestead. This weekend, guys, I want to concentrate on feeding the garden and the plants in the garden, mainly the tomato plants that are in those pots. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to make compost tea. Now, compost tea could be very easy, or some people complicate it and they do all kinds of different things with adding like molasses and all this different stuff and an air bubbler and all that. What I'm making is just a steeped compost tea. So basically we're gonna fill up a big 35-gallon trash can with water, and then we're gonna add our compost from the chicken run compost system that we have, which will be very nutrient dense. It'll be great for the compost tea. And I also have fish emulsion, a bottle of that we're gonna add to the compost tea. We're gonna stir it up. Maybe, oh, and actually I think I'm adding some leaves as well. I had to redo this intro because I don't have anything scripted. I just kind of go throughout the day as I do it. So my beginning intro really didn't work for the video. So I'm back here again, redoing the intro now that we already did the compost tea. They're going nuts in there. But anyway, so what does compost tea do? Well, the one I'm making, this steeped compost tea, it'll draw out all the nutrients out of the compost. Why are you so noisy? It'll draw all the nutrients out of the compost. We use that tea to water the plants with it. So it's like a liquid organic fertilizer basically. And it's really beneficial to the garden. And that's probably the reason why my garden doesn't produce as much as I want, because I never do it. I always forget to do compost tea. Well, that's going to change. From now on, I'm using compost tea for a while, and I just want to see what the difference is with me staying on a schedule with it. Now, if you're not making your own compost, if you don't have chickens in the backyard like I do, you could go to the store and buy compost in a bag. And if you buy one little bag of compost, you take about a big, maybe 1 or 2 handfuls of it and put it in a 5-gallon bucket, fill that up, let it soak about 24 to 48 hours. It'll draw the nutrients out, and then you use that for the plants. Benefits of compost tea is it extends your compost, first of all. So say you don't have an area to make compost, you have to buy a bag of it. Now if you take that bag of compost and put it on a 4 by 8 raised bed maybe, it won't really do much. But if you take that same bag of compost, take a couple scoops of it every once in a while, put it in a 5-gallon bucket, fill it up, that will water the entire garden if you have a smaller garden. So it really extends the life of the compost. And when you're adding that compost tea in there, you're basically feeding all the microbiology in the soil, right? They want that stuff. That's what they want to eat. And then with that, your soil gets healthier, your plants uptake a lot more nutrients, and everyone wins in the garden if you're doing compost tea. So now we're going to go back to this morning, and I'll start there and show you what we did as far as how we made it, and then some other projects we got done as far as turning the compost in there, adding leaves to it again. I'm just waiting for that grass to start growing like I say earlier. That way we can start dumping that in there as well. So not only is the chickens giving me beautiful eggs, they're also making beautiful compost for me, and now I'm gonna start doing the compost tea with it. I'm gonna start doing it. So, chicken compost tea, let's do it. They're like, let me out, but if I let them out this early, they will destroy the yard in one day. You gotta wait a little bit. Anyway, let's get started. Man, I'm sorry, there's a lot of planes flying around today. I'm trying to take breaks in between them going past, but it's just impossible. They are busy at the Venice airport today. Anyway, guys, I have that Brute 30, I think it's a 35-gallon trash can, and I've used it before for compost tea. What I did is, as you can see here, I cut out the lid and I put screen on it. That way rain can get in there, but mosquitoes hopefully stay out somewhat, or even lizards. I don't want them falling into the bucket and dying. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a big old batch of liquid fertilizer or compost tea, however you want to call it. It is what it is. We're going to make it out of this Brute Rubbermaid 35-gallon trash can. So the first thing I need to do is fill it up. Now, as you can see inside the bottom of this trash can, there's already a bunch of leaves and stuff just breaking down, and it's all black. And this is pretty much anaerobic because it's under the water, it's not getting any air, and it's fine. It's no big deal. Anaerobic, aerobic, it doesn't matter. Once you put it into the garden, the aerobic bacteria is gonna break down the anaerobic. So all of this sludge that's in here, we're gonna leave it in here, and we're just gonna fill it up, and some compost, some fish emulsion, and it's gonna be a yummy tea for the garden. Oh yeah, we're almost full. And as you can see, it's already nice and dark because of the stuff that's been in there. But we're gonna just amp it up a little more and add some more stuff to it. The first thing I want to collect for the compost tea is chicken compost. That's going to be the best stuff we put in there today. Not any store-bought. Hello. Everyone wants to be held now that I'm holding one of them. But I want to dig down deep and get some well-composted chicken compost. I don't want the fresh stuff. Oh yeah, that's good stuff. They love when you start turning it over for them. They get all excited. I'll probably turn over this whole thing today just to give them, just to get everything. Wow. Everyone has something to say today. Huh. So anyway, I got about a half. Wow, really? So anyway, I got some compost there that we collected. And yes, I got to come collect eggs also. I keep forgetting. I got so many eggs. What do you want? I mean, these chickens. They give me great compost, they give me great eggs, and they're fun to have. Anyway, let's get the compost and move on. So anyway, I was getting ready to leave the chicken run, excuse me, and I just happened to look down and see this little animal figure, some type of a deer or something, antelope of some type. It must have been Tyler's when he was younger, or maybe even Anthony's, who knows. Alright, so let's move on. Girls, can I get out, please? Excuse me. Excuse me. Excuse me. Thank you. I'll let y'all out in a little bit. Okay, so I got it filled up as much as I want to. I don't want to overfill it because if it rains, it's going to get more water in there, right? And again, it already had like leaves and stuff in there. So let's see how it looks right now without even adding anything. As you can see, it's like a light sun tea almost. It's not dark enough. There's not enough nutrition in here yet. We want this a lot darker. So let's start adding our supplements. Okay, so the best thing we're going to add into it today is going to be our chicken run compost. That's the most nutrient dense out of everything. So I got about maybe 2.5 gallons in here, maybe 2 gallons worth, and it's going into a 35-gallon bucket. So I think that's good. Let's just get some in there. Just put it all in there, right? Okay, Google, how much is 70 tablespoons?
70 tablespoons is 0.273 liquid gallons.
Alright, next thing I'm going to add is fish fertilizer. This is really good. It has high nitrogen, 5, 1, and 1. So what it calls for is 2 tablespoons per gallon. That's 35 gallons. That's 70 tablespoons. So I did my little Google here search. 70 tablespoons is 0.27 gallons. 1 quart is 0.25 gallons. So the whole thing is going in there. Yum. doesn't smell that good, but it works really nice. Feel like a witch making a brew. A garden witch. Now let's have a taste test. Just kidding, just want to see how dark it is now. There we go. That's looking good. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to let it sit all day. You wanted to let it sit for at least 24 to 48 hours, but you know, I was going to add some black cow, but being we got that beautiful chicken compost right off the property, I'll just save this bag for future use. And it's not that potent anyway. It's only 0.5, 0.5, 0.5. So I don't think it's going to add any value to the compost tea. But that fish emulsion or that fish fertilizer and the compost tea, and I ain't even worried about all the little strands of straw and all that. That's all good. Just let it soak in. You know, one thing I will throw in there, let's go grab some of the leaf compost. Look at this stuff. It is breaking down so nicely. That compost is looking great. I'm gonna go dump this into the tea as well. Oh, pretty stuff brewing, guys. Compost is our friend. Okay, so it's just that easy to make compost tea. Get a little compost, throw it into a bucket. If you had like a 5-gallon bucket, you don't have a lot of plants to water, you could do a 5-gallon bucket, maybe 1 handful of really good compost. If you don't have homemade compost and you have to buy something, buy like a chicken compost or a different kind of manure, and I would use maybe 2 handfuls in the 5-gallon bucket. Fill it up with non-chlorinated water so it doesn't kill the bacteria, right? You want that bacteria in the compost tea because that's going to feed all the beneficial microorganisms in your soil. So the compost tea isn't like really directly feeding your plants, it's feeding the soil and the biology in your soil that feeds the plants. So you want to keep that soil happy, and compost tea is by far the best way to do it. No Miracle-Gro fertilizer is going to compete with a really good compost tea. So start making your own compost and your garden will thank you for it. Now what I'm going to do now that we have that filled up, we got it stirred, and in order to keep it like aerobic, you could stir it every day. Just kind of stir it. As you use it, you could fill it back up. I won't have to add any more nutrients to that for a while. I'll be able to fill it back up and reuse the same stuff that's in there. Trust me, it's going to go a long way. And if you don't have a lot of compost on your property, or you do have to buy bag stuff, 1 bag of compost can last you so much longer if you make tea versus laying it on top of your soil. You know what I mean? It just goes a lot further. So I'm going to get into the chicken run and I'm going to mix up their composting system. That way everything gets mixed in, they get excited, they start mixing again, and we'll get that rolling. So let me go do that. As you can see, I haven't stirred up any of this in a while, so we're going to mix it all together. But if you look down in here, you got the straw that I just put down, there's some leaves in here, and the further deeper you go, you just start running into broken down stuff. Broken down leaves, broken down grass clippings, broken down straw, chicken manure. It's all in here, all wrapped up in it. Beautiful stuff, great for the garden. If you have chickens, start composting in their run because they do all the work for you. Are you listening to me? Wow, you guys are so attentive. Look at yous. What are you saying? Was that interesting? Yeah, I'm making you work. I'm making you make the compost. That's right. You make compost and eggs for me, huh? Huh. Wow, that's a weird little growl you got going on there. You want me to pet you? Okay, so I mixed everything up and then I added one big bag of leaves, which they are already attacking. It's like a kid. They love to play in the leaves. Stir it all up, guys. Girls, sorry. The fresh smell of a bag of leaves. And that'll just all mix in. Again, start composting for me. I'm ready for summertime to come and that grass to start growing, because then we get the good green grass in here. They love that stuff. Just cracked my first beer of the day, and it's kind of frozen. It's like a slushy. It's starting to come up from the top now. Sorry. It's as cold as the Rockies, like they say. Alright, so now that we have that big 35-gallon trash can full of beautiful compost tea, well, it's starting to steep. So we're going to let it steep the rest of the day, all night long. Tomorrow morning we'll get up, we'll give it a good stir, and then we'll water those tomato plants with it. Now, quick word of advice. If you're getting ready to use compost tea and your soil is really dry, give the garden a light watering. Get that soil a little bit moist. That way it absorbs the compost tea better. Because you know, if you pour water onto really dry soil, it just kind of bleeds right off of the top. But if you have it moist, it'll go right in and it'll soak right into the base of those plants. So make sure your soil is a little moist before you use your compost tea. That way it gets right to where you want it. So for the rest of the day, I'm just going to hang out, goof off, I don't know what I'm doing, have a couple of cold ones, and we'll be back tomorrow morning to give them their first watering of compost tea. And then in the next couple of weeks, we'll start seeing if there's good progress, same, we'll figure it out. So being it was cloudy, kind of cool for me, I figured I would do a fire, so that's what I've been doing all afternoon, just hanging out and burning stuff in the backyard. So here's the last thing I'm putting on, the last part of the Christmas tree. And just like that, it's morning time, so I'm stirring up the compost tea. As you can see on these tomatoes, we're starting to get some nice ones coming in. So we definitely want to get them fed. So in the pots, we're just going to fill them up with this beautiful compost tea. Okay, plan B. Like I said, this isn't scripted. That tube was still getting clogged with compost on the waterer. So I'm just going to take a gallon water jug, cut the top off. Just like that. That makes for a good water. Just keep the handle on. Oh yeah. Alright, that'll be much more effective. There we go. So there, so now we'll give each one of them a gallon. So there's that one. Look at all the tomatoes over here on the in-ground plant. I mean, it is loaded with tomatoes. We're going to do 2 gallons in the in-ground ones. Now I'm just going to go ahead and fill it right back up. That way it's all ready to roll for the next watering. Alright, so there you go guys, a super simple process to make compost tea, and probably the most beneficial thing you could do for your garden soil, and your plants. And we're going to stay on this regimen of watering them with the compost tea for a while, just until I see some progress, I guess you could say. After that, then we can back it off to maybe every other watering or every third watering. But for right now, I'm going to water them like this for probably the next 2 weeks straight. That's how they're going to get watered with the compost tea. And we'll see the results. I hope you guys like it. Again, if you are not making compost and you have the ability to, start making it. If you don't have the ability to make it, just go buy a good quality compost bag solution and start using it in your 5-gallon bucket or your 35-gallon drum like I'm using, or a trash can. But it goes a lot further if you're making tea out of it. As you can see, I watered the whole garden with just about 5 or 6, 7 gallons maybe, so it's not bad. Of course, my garden is not complete yet, so after a while it's going to take a lot. So that 35-gallon trash can will do just fine. Hope you guys enjoy. Have a good rest of the weekend, and we will see you next week.